Pastor Jason, good to see you. Ricky Watson, I see you. Kenneth Noel, I see you. Robert Rush, I see you. Bible Girl, I see you. Tammy 0603, hello. Hello from Alabama. Tracy Nicole, Brandon Clack, I love you. I see Prophet somebody, Vicky Henderson. Now, I've heard that name. Hello, Adrian Davis. Hello to all of you. Hey, Jimmy. Principal LWJL, I'm sorry. Naviel Johnson. Hello from California. Hello from Jacksonville. Hello from South Carolina. Esther from Dallas. Hello from Cleveland. Hello from Trinidad. Hello from Ypsilanti, Michigan. Hello. Hey, listen, it has been a while since I have done a nighttime Periscope, and I wanted to share something with you. First of all, go ahead and share this with your followers. And I think I'm going to share some things that may actually help you. And I'm trusting that I've got some leaders here, some leaders that are in training, leaders that are currently leading. And in any organizational sense, this is going to be quite juicy, but something that we need to deal with. We're going to deal with the sacred issue of intimidation, and it is something that we need to deal with because I think that the worst spot and the worst place for intimidation is in a leader, anybody that has influence over somebody else's life. So we're going to talk about intimidation. First of all, thank you so much. We got 793 in. It'd be great if we could get up to 1,000. Hello, Mary Barney. Hello, Cynthia. Somebody. Hello, Lavita Antoinette. Redeemed One. Hello, Pratt, whoever that is. Prophet Sanchez. Hello, Rosalind Baker. Arian Johnson. You know I'm on it. Hello, Dirk Thirst. Hello. We're at 8:33. DJ Felder, good to see you. Thank you for sharing. First of all, let me say, if you are not current on the conversation, I've been teaching on demons for the last 2 months, and I'm still teaching on deliverance and the ministry of deliverance and spiritual warfare, entitled Let Us Alone. And we're getting ready to do the conclude of that this coming Sunday. And after I teach for the first 2 morning services, I'm going to be doing a mass deliverance service Sunday at, I think it's 6 o'clock at our church. It's a mass deliverance service. Let me see. I don't know. I just work here. But we're going to be doing a mass deliverance service. Yes, Sunday, August 28th, Pagani, I figure that's your language, at 6 p.m. If you've never been to a mass deliverance service, it's a very, very unique service to be a part of. It's not really decorated, not really inebriated, just very, 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 very clear, clean cut worship, and then personal ministry to people for the casting out of devils. And what I love about my church, and that those that are part of it, is that people are not insulted by the assertion that they need deliverance. I love the fact that we have made it okay for people to have issues and need ministry from them. So join us if you want. If you want some personal ministry, we'll be ready for you this Sunday. But go back, watch the teachings, and catch up to date with what we're talking about. All right, let's go. Who's got a pen? If you've got a pen or you're going to take some notes, give me an emoji that signifies that that's what you're doing, that you're taking notes. Let me know if you're getting ready to take some notes. I was working on a teaching that I'm doing and a writing that I'm working on, and I was writing about the subject of the emotional challenges of leaders and people who have leadership responsibility. So these principles are going to be in every sense. Of course, most commonly, many of you are going to apply them to or measure them to a ministry sense. But we're going to talk about the sticky issue of intimidation, because it's something that if you're under it, you're in danger. If you have it in you, you're in danger, and so are the people around you. But this is something that you really need to know about why, as a leader, and why, as a person who is preparing for leadership or serving in leadership, especially if you got the nerve to be somebody's pastor or shepherd, why it's dangerous to be an intimidated person. Okay, so let's do some work. First of all, here is what blessed me today. When I was working on this, I did some word studies because I don't like to assume that I know the full comprehensive definition of words. I love words. Words are probably 90% of my career. And so I love the study of words, the meaning of words, verbiage, phrases, sayings, statements. I love the science of the sentence, right? So I try to be as reverent as possible when approaching words that are commonly used and commonly thrown around. So I looked at the word intimidation today, and you know what I found out? There were about 3 different, hello, Apostle Marlon, good to see you. There were about 3 different definitions of this in Miriam, and the first one was to feel with fear or to make timid. To feel with fear or to make timid. So we all know coming into this that the subject of intimidation has to be horrible, because Miriam gave us the fact that to be intimidated or to intimidate is to fill one with fear or to be filled with fear. Isn't that crazy? So we're already starting this off showing that this is a spiritual issue, that intimidation is one of the many manifestations of fear. It is a fear tactic. It is a fear reaction, and it works on both spectrums. If a person is deliberately trying to be intimidating, or if a person is intimidated, they are both diverse spectrum of what happens in fear. Isn't that interesting? So to make timid or to reduce, to break down, to restrict, to fraction off, or to fill with fear, to fill with fear. Now, if you hadn't seen my teaching from this past week on fear, go back. It is demonic. It's not from God. It is from hell. But that's the basis of intimidation, is that it's on fear. Okay, so that's important for you to realize. So the first definition on here is to make timid or to fill with fear. Now, I have a threefold cord of intimidation, okay? And I want you to pay attention to this. If you're writing this, and listen, if you're a leader, I saw a couple of apostles on here. Use this with your leadership group. Use this with your elders. You need to deal with this because it's extremely destructive when it goes unchecked. It's even more destructive when it is active in a leader and that leader starts to get popular or known or responsible for large things, and this is not easily seen, because then it becomes more and more destructive and more difficult to see. Sometimes success can be inebriating. So anyway, this is the threefold cord. First of all, if you're dealing with intimidation, you're going to have inferiority. And if you're going to have inferiority, you're going to have insecurity. Number 1, intimidation. Number 2, inferiority. Number 3, insecurity. Okay, so we're kind of walking through the psychology of all of this as it pertains to leaders and leadership. Intimidation, inferiority, and insecurity. Now, of course, already before I break this down, we see the problem, and we see why this is scary for anybody in a leadership position, is because all of them are inward issues. All of them are internal issues. And when you are a person with large levels of external responsibilities, or you even aspire one day to have large responsibilities, it is very dangerous to have these unresolved issues in your inward self, in your inner man. This is the challenge. Generally speaking, a lot of leaders, a lot of preachers, a lot of pastors that I know are way more emotionally unstable than the people that they lead. And of course, they can give accurate diagnosis of the condition and the statuses of the people that they lead and excuse themselves of it because it's just, it's just how it goes. I guess when you become a preacher or a pastor, you become immune to being a person. And so you no longer need to address these issues in your life or around your life, or you don't give other people the authority to deal with it in you or to hold you accountable for it. But any leader who lives in that and who lives inwardly, they can't really be empathetic enough, humble enough, open enough, loving enough to be the type of leader that you need to be in this particular day. Here, look at 1 Samuel 18:7. 1 Samuel 18:7. We're dealing with intimidation and its relationship to inferiority and insecurity. While you're going to 1 Samuel 18:7, consider this. Intimidation is the fear manifestation. It's I feel fearful, or I use fear as a tactic to reduce people so that I feel better. But inferiority is the lack of confidence in what I am or what I have. The lack in confidence in what I am or what I have. But insecurity is the fact that I am threatened. I am particularly threatened about what another person's action, achievement, accomplishment, or skill means to me. That's insecurity. All of those are a manifestation or diverse types of manifestations of fear. But in 1 Samuel 18:7, this is the single line, and I want you to hear this, the single line that was the beginning point of all of Saul's murderous attempts at David. This is the one line that started the entire thing. And here's what's crazy is that this is not a line from David. This was not an email from David. This was not a text message from David. This was a song of a crowd. This was a chant from a crowd. Look at what they said as they danced. This is 1 Samuel 18:7. And they sang, Saul has slain his thousands. Okay, an achievement, an ability, a record, a mark, a level. And then they says, and David his tens of thousands. So a crowd was able to have a chant. An audience was able to create a song that obviously Saul was aware of, but instead of externalizing it as the statements of, the publicity of, the fanfare of a crowd, what did he do? What anybody with intimidation issues do, they went internal. Those lyrics became a statement, a subject of terrorism, a subject of torment for somebody who heard it. Now again, what amazes me is that Saul didn't get mad at the crowd. And they were the ones that said it. And they were the ones that sang it. And they were the ones that were responsible for it. He immediately allowed those lyrics to begin to counsel him, to begin to talk to him, to begin to program him. And when that stuff started to affect him, he found the object of the praise of the crowd. David at this juncture was innocent, was being himself, was obeying his call, living in his potential, excelling in his own skill. He had not aimed Saul. He was simply being who he was. But those lyrics from that audience, those praises from that crowd, that one little line was the beginning point of a lot of different, I think over 12 to 13 plus attempts at the life of David. So this is very, very, very important. Somebody said John Cena or Seth Rollins. I'm going to say John Cena. I'm a wrestling fan, so don't throw me off like that again. But those lyrics became an instrument where how he felt about himself or started to be disrupted and started to be unsettled because of the lack of affirmation or the lack of belief in himself. So that's important. I'm going to give you some traits and some signs of an intimidated leader, or if you have intimidation in you. Okay, now this is very dangerous, and I'll explain why as I'm developing this with you. And you can share this, study this, deal with this in your own life. But this is so important, because if you don't deal with intimidation, you are going to self-sabotage your own influence, your own authority, and you are going to become needlessly and pointlessly reckless when it comes to needful collaborations, needful partnerships, and needful courage to move in the direction of the favor of God and the purpose of God and the stage of God for your life. Okay, so first of all, when you are dealing with intimidation, inferiority, and insecurity, it is only natural that you be defensive. An intimidated person will be very easily defensive. They're just going to be defensive. Because they go internal with every accolade, every achievement, every move, every action of another. They're going to get very, very, very defensive. It's going to be in their tone. It's going to be in their attitude. It's going to be in their strategy. It's going to be in their philosophy of ministry. It's going to be in their approach to relationships. It's going to be in their approach to spouses, their approach to people. It's going to be in their approach to everything. They're just very defensive. In their mind, they make up audiences that may not even be there. I know they say I'm this, and I know they say I'm that, and I know they say, and the real truth is many people are not even watching them or looking at them, or don't know to be looking for the stuff that they're highlighting is under attack. But that defensiveness is one of the ways that they reveal and that they communicate that there is a really fragile soul, or a real undealt with brokenness, that a calling didn't change and that a position didn't change. So they're going to be very defensive, just defensive, always on guard, always willing to take on the posture of I don't know, having to qualify people and their intent and their statements. So they're going to be defensive. That's one symptom of intimidation. The next symptom is that they're going to be very possessive. They're going to be possessive. They're going to treat people, projects, churches, relationships as pawns. They're not going to outright say it, because then it'll tell, but they'll interact with people like their property, with potential I don't know, people that serve them in friendship definitions, in romantic interests, in business dealings. They're going to be very possessive. Just very possessive, just possessive. They're going to act as if people belong to them, act as if people are their property, act as if people have no rights to move forward, move aside without their involvement or without their awareness. They're possessive as people, okay? The next, and they're going to fight for credit. If a person is possessive, if a leader is possessive, they cannot stand going without the credit that they think they deserve for doing what they automatically should be doing as leader. Now, that's not honor, that's credit. When a person is possessive, they're going to demand the credit for what they've done, who they've been, and what they've done to you. So that's important for you to realize. They got to have the credit. Third, they're going to be territorial. They're going to have a spot. Don't come over here. Don't mess with this. Don't befriend my friends. Don't come in my city. Don't come on my block. Don't take my this. Don't take my that. They're going to create geographical boundaries, or they're going to take relational boundaries, or they're going to create doctrinal boundaries. They're going to create just invisible lines that keep them valid, that keep them protected, that keep them validated in what it is that they do. And there's a reason for it. The reason that they have to do that is because if those boundaries are erased and others start to go in and out of them, they no longer feel important, and they no longer longer feel significant and they no longer feel honored. So they've got to create geographical spaces like friend zones, doctrine zones, church buddy zones, relationship zones. They gotta create those zones, right? To make sure that nobody comes in, or even worse, that you owe them an apology if you come in them zones to do whatever you're supposed to do. So just territorial, that's an example. Another sign of this when it comes to intimidation, inferiority, and insecurity is they're going to be victimized. They're going to feel very targeted. It's really, really, really weird. It's almost like they're going to perceive anybody's achievements, advancements, assets, differences, even if it's just different, they're going to see that as something that is harmful to them, that it's hurting me. So I'm not even done, and you can already see why a person like this shouldn't even be leading, or they need a sabbatical, because all of this makes them incapable of offering a pure pour to anybody. This stuff unchecked, again, intimidation in Saul made him a murderer. I'll get there in a minute. So they're going to feel victimized. They'll do dirt. They'll say dirt. And then what will happen is they have to find somebody to agree with the fact that they've been wrong. So this is going to be another colleague, another friend, a song. Anything is going to serve as confirmation, a squad to justify their victimization. Y'all having this, or you doing that, or you being that, or you pursuing this call, or you pursuing this business, or you going on with your life, or you going to get married, or somehow it's made me a victim. It has affected me. So then they have to find somebody on the same mental and emotional wavelength to justify or to back it, so that they don't feel the urgency to get it out of their heart because it's demonic. It's not like God. So they got to get backing because they have made themselves a victim. The next sign and symptom of intimidation in a leader is going to be that they have to find a way, a route, and an opportunity to minimize or to humanize the achievements or the strengths of another person. This can be peer level, or this can be if a leader is over you. They're going to minimize or they're going to humanize. What I mean by humanizing is they'll say, oh, all he's doing is that, or all she's doing is that, or we've seen that before, or they ain't nothing new, or she ain't seen nothing new. I could do that, or I could do that. All you gotta do is do this. They're gonna find out a way to come up with the formula for how you did what you did, how you became what you became, to try to cope with their own inability or their own insecurities or their own issues. They've got to find a way to reduce what you did to make it seem like it wasn't that difficult to do because of what they really don't believe about themselves. So they're going to discredit and they're going to attack what they feel like is your achievements or your strengths. They're going to minimize it and they're going to humanize it. Don't be so impressed with that. Don't be so, I can make that type of money. I could go and get that job. I could go and do this. So that's what they're going to do. They've got to humanize it and they've got to discredit it, even if it's just to other people, so that they can make themselves feel like they are legitimate in the fact that there is something demonic that lives in them that they don't want to address. So that's very, very, very important for you to realize. Here is another very unique addendum to people and leaders that deal with intimidation is they're going to be passive aggressive. They're going to be passive and directed. They're going to do the big bad wolf thing when they have microphones in their hands, or when they have opportunities to say things where they know they're going to get an applause, or when they have opportunities to, spread or share their version of stories or their versions of accounts or their versions of all of this, but they won't like pure, a direct conversation about what really is transpired and what is really went down. They're passive aggressive. And because they're passive aggressive, they have to indirectly deal with problems, and then they become very assertive and very vocal when the person or the objective or the organization of their problem is not present. Very vocal. In my life, most of the character assaults that I've had have been obviously behind my back. You know, and many of them have had the opportunity to do it in person. They just won't do it. They'll wait till they get in their own pulpits or wait till they get on their own prayer phone line things and, you know, do it that way. But they're passive aggressive because it's just too mature and it's too healthy to have a direct conversation about how you feel, what you feel, why you think it, because that conversation would bring transparency and then would reveal the inner state of what's really happening. And that's just too much. That's just too I don't know, transparent. It's a bit traumatic for a person who has been used to attacking people externally for the stuff that's going on internally. Finally, or not finally, but a person dealing with intimidation is going to avoid confrontation. They're going to avoid confrontation. If they don't avoid it, it's going to be with anger, wrath, sin. And the Bible says that anger rests in the belly of fools. But they're going to avoid honest confrontation because they don't want to include the facts that make them look immature or broken. If a person is already in leadership and already in influence, they don't want to have the types of conversations that include the facts that reveal that they are broken, because if I'm anointed, I shouldn't be broken, and if I'm called, I shouldn't be unwhole. That's the pretty much thought of the idea. And in order to have a direct conversation, I've got to put my ego aside and actually admit to what's going on with me and where I've been and why I'm like this to begin that. All right. So of course they avoid confrontation because they fear vulnerability. Now, how are they going to cope with this? To an intimidated leader, an intimidated organizational head, an intimidated whatever person in authority, they're going to use their ability to attack another person as their anesthesia for how they feel about themselves or how they don't feel about themselves. They have to use the javelins of their words and the javelins of their joking and the javelin of their gesture to make sure that they have a coping mechanism and they have a way to deal with the pain that's motivating these onslaughts to begin with. Remember, Saul has slain his thousands, David his tens of thousands. Immediately after that, Saul starts going, I've got to kill him. I've got to kill him. I've got to kill him. What did he do? He used his insecurity as fuel to direct accurately and to project on David what was really an internal war in and of himself. Now, here's a very, 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 very valuable one. I want you to please realize this with an intimidated leader. You got to get this. They have no real emotional or mental process to healthily handle loss. It is so important that you get that. They have no real emotional or mental process to healthily handle loss. They cannot deal with the idea of loss well. Loss to them feels like an attack, but even worse than an attack, it is a statement of value, a statement of value. They just cannot have, you can't leave their church. You can't leave their company. You can't leave their idea. You can't leave. You just can't leave because it's an insecure person. And I become possessive as a protective mechanism. So when you leave, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's God, whether it's whatever, you know, you've got to explain to me why you need to do that, because you doing that has now made me feel some way or made me feel like I did something wrong. Here's another one that you've got to understand. All right. When you are an intimidated leader or you struggle with intimidation as a person called to leadership, you have very perverse ideas of loyalty. Very perverse ideas of loyalty. People can leave, adjust, move on, move over, disagree, not agree, and still be loyal. People are going to definitely have overly extended, overly exaggerated, overly extreme ideas of what loyalty is, and they're going to use those definitions from pain. You see, if you are a person that is still in the grips of pain and traumatic experiences and betrayal, you probably shouldn't even trust what you think loyalty is, because what you define loyalty is staying with me and agreeing with me and not challenging me and not leaving me and deciding that because you are here to keep me healthy. Because here's what happens. Now listen, I'm an overseer pastor, so I know how this works. Whenever you are under a leader with these issues and you're not growing, you're dying spiritually, because that's exactly how it's going to be when you're under a person with this issue. They're going to kill something in you eventually. When you are under that type of a thing, you end up staying to keep them healthy. You will end up moving into self-negligence, into murder, into suicide of purpose, of hope, of clarity. Some of you are in career suicide because you feel like any move, courageous or otherwise, on your behalf is going to make sure that that person over you in authority is not healthy. But listen, if you are serving under somebody in corporate America, in your local church, and the only reason you're staying is to make sure that the person over you in authority remains healthy, then it's already dysfunctional. Either you're going to pastor yourself, or you're going to pastor your leader, or you're going to be somebody who's a recipient. It is not your job to keep your leader whole. That's not your job. And if your leader needs you to be whole, they should not be leading. Not now. They're broken. They need some ministry. They need some accountability. You don't stay somewhere, that you're dying and you're suffering in, and you got all kinds of stuff going on, and it's just dysfunctional. You cannot pastor your shepherd. It's just ridiculous. So that's perverse. It's backwards. It's not really oriented the right way. Now, here's a statement that I wrote down about this. An intimidated leader, and I want you to understand this, an intimidated leader can't respect what someone is doing right without being made to feel like they themselves has done something wrong. I'm going to say that again. An intimidated leader can't respect what someone is doing right, colleague, person under them in authority, employee, without being made to feel like they themselves have done something wrong. It's like they have no real framework that just because you have this strength, or you have this difference, or you have this hunger, or you have this ability, or you have this potential that they say is right and that they say is strong, they can't separate that from defining or measuring or evaluating or being a statement of who they are and what they have. Your right equals their wrong. Your forward means that they're not forward. And so in the middle ground, what happens is, if they don't come to a point to transparently own this and talk about it and vent it out, people are going to get attacked unfairly, unjustly, carnally, wickedly. It's going to happen in that space. And the reason it's going to happen in that space is because they don't want to take the greatest journey that all leaders need to take if they're going to be effective in leadership, and that's the journey in. Every leader needs to take the journey in. Remember, these are inward issues. Your problem is not that somebody is stealing your members, or somebody took your business idea, or that somebody, thinks that they don't need you. Your problem is you really still believe that people have the ability to destroy you, to hurt you, to harm you, to threaten you, to get in the way of your progress, to get in the way of your journey. So the problem is not anybody external, because people are going to come and go. People are going to be added. People are going to take away. They're going to do that. The real problem is you. and that you have not resolved that these are things that are inevitable in ministry, in corporate America, in politics, in sales. I mean, people are variables that change, and and when they change, it's not always the devil that changes it. Sometimes God changes it. You know, when our church was a lot smaller, I would take it personal when people left too. But after we got over the 400 or 500 mark, I mean, 10 years ago, I stopped being able to even keep up with who came and who stayed and who left and all that stuff. So it became easy for me to really bless people over the time for letting them go. I made a value system that I would never be mad that a person decided to move on and go somewhere else, because I'm not assuming I'm everybody's leader, no matter how much history we have. There are many people in my church that I might be preparing for the leadership of another man. These are not my people. I'm not God. When people go crazy and do stuff that I don't agree with, I'm like, God, these are your people. You sent your son to die for them. What you gonna do about this? I don't take it on as a statement of who I am or what I've not done or what I can't do or any of that. Because if I allow that to happen to me, what am I going to do? I'm going to demonize. I'm going to murder whoever that thing is attracted to. This is why I make a lot of people sick. It's just that my presence or whatever I'm doing makes stuff like this surface in people, and they don't know how to deal with it. So they get criminal and carnal and just crazy. It's really bad right now. But here are my cautions. If you are a leader with this in you, you need a pastor or you need some friends so you can vet this too. How do I deal with this? Great question. You ready? Drum roll, please. You would be better off arming your friends and your pastor with the information that Satan's going to use against you. What I mean by that is this. If you deal with intimidation, tell your friends and your pastor, and I'm talking about as a pastor, if you are a pastor or somebody in authority, tell your bishop, your apostle, your overseer, or your friends around you, I deal with intimidation. Now I know that's uncomfortable because you got to take your collars off and your capes off and your ties off and your suits off and your Ray-Bans off and your accolades off, and you got to cast your crowns and admit that you are a human being with human hurts and with human feelings. But you got to do it. If you don't put that information in the arms and the hands of people that have your best interest at heart, then Satan's going to use it against you, and you're going to end up like Saul, trying to kill in David what you just can't see about yourself. Now, if you are a minister, a ministry gift, somebody who wants to be development, I have seen people preach and teach, and most of the black church puts no premium on the supernatural. The black church, pretty much our strength has been great oratory. So if you can make something sound good and sew it together with a little music and an organ and everything, and you get an amen if you see anything. I can go to a black church and say, Barney is coming back tomorrow, put a good tambourine on and make some rhymes, and somebody gonna say amen. Unfortunately, it's just how we built our church. We have put no real premium on the supernatural. So what happens is, when you have people in your midst that develop a hunger for that stuff, what an intimidated leader will start to demonize your desire for the supernatural. You ain't got to be all like that. It ain't always about miracles. It ain't always about healing. It ain't always about the prophetic. You don't go run up and out these prophets. You don't go run. They're going to demonize what you're hungry for because of what they don't have, and what they don't want to expose you to, and what they don't want to release in your world, and what they don't want to be accountable for. So they got to demonize it, mock it, and attack it, loose a javelin at it to make sure that they crucify that hunger in you, because they don't want to cope with the fact that they don't have it in them to offer what you're seeking for. So it's different. What makes this so bad is that an intimidated leader is not strong enough to develop anybody. They're too busy protecting themselves. When you are intimidated, you go and you live and you preach and you love and you do all of that with a defense. You do all of that with a guard. And you can't really develop people the Bible way when your primary objective is to protect yourself. Many people are afraid of others around them being developed or even being exposed to other revelation or being exposed to other teaching because, again, they're in self-protection. You go and hear that, you go and listen to her preach, you go and listen to her preach, then I got to go into a point where I got to figure out how I'm going to be valid anymore and how I'm going to be seen as your favorite person anymore. And how will you believe I have known people who really got mad because their members posted other people's statuses or posted other people's pictures. When I tell you, I don't care. I can't believe that some of you slaves get pulled into the plantation to discuss whose status is you posting on your wall. That is your Facebook wall. And it's not me doing good shepherding by policing and by monitoring who you post or repost. It's control. It's Jezebel in a female or male form. I don't have the time to be playing Facebook police to make sure you don't post somebody's status or you don't post somebody or make you feel bad that listen, if I found out somebody from All Nations was posting another person's stuff more than me, I would not care. Maybe it's impacting them more. Maybe it means more to them. It's not a state. It means nothing about who I am or where I'm going or what I mean. You can't put no amount of Bible revelation to your being bound. So you can preach it, you can sing it, you can act like it's dishonor, it's rebellion, like people ain't loyal, but the real truth is you bound and you got demons. And it's okay. We all need freedom from something. You just need to be accountable to it, because ultimately what Saul ended up doing was losing his crown, losing his throne, having his entire destiny canceled because of an inward issue. His destiny was canceled because a crowd said to him, or he disobeyed. That was an insecurity issue, Saul. And then he ended up going on a murderous onslaught to kill David. I don't care. I don't care. People are going to come. People are going to go. They're going to celebrate one person one day, not celebrate the other. Those are variables nobody can control. But the real truth is, if you are over people's lives, if you're a CEO, if you're a pastor, if you're a manager, if you whatever, and if you're a father, if you are a husband, and you have intimidation issues, you're going to kill them people and you. Somebody needs to hold you accountable for the state of your heart, because the Bible says it's out of your heart that flows the issues of life. And leadership is stressful. Leadership is painful. Leadership is draining. Leadership is full of pressure. Leadership is a lot. You got to find the place and the point of consistent, healthy security. If you don't, you're going to kill people to cope with the pain of your own inability to see what you got and where you're going and what God has said about you. There is not one person, and there are thousands that are around All Nations. There is not one person there, no, not one, that's worth me risking and missing my destiny. Now, I've had people that I've raised up, trained up, taught them everything they know, and they come to the place where they're like, I want to go. I don't argue. I don't go into no teary-eyed, crying, manipulative, psychologically tormenting, gang up on you sessions to try to make you stay. Because at the end of the day, if you stay, because I forced you to, you're not going to be productive. You're not going to be healthy. All you're going to do is contaminate the people around you with your perspectives. When you decide you want to go, I want you to go. Well, what am I supposed to do? Go and get somebody that ain't saved. So again, this is psychological and emotional abuse. And all people got to do is put an organ behind it, and you crazy people shout on it. And it's sad that we have no workable context and no workable framework for understanding that intimidation has got to be dealt with. That's why I think every pastor needs a pastor. And that's why I think that every church, I don't think there should be a such thing as an independent church. I think they should all be a part of a broader family of churches that can align, that can measure, that can deal with these issues from the heart. Because if you are not a secure leader, you don't have strength. If you are insecure, you're too weak for people to be born out of you, for people to be born from you, from people to be released. Your church, your business, your family should not be forced to be your fan club and feed your ego and feed your insecurity issues. That is somebody else's job, and you are an abusive person for making that the job of people that you're supposed to be serving and feeding. So these are inward issues, and the hardest journey for a leader to take, particularly if they've never done it, is the one in. And in fairness, many of them don't have people or conversations or leaders that help them take that journey in. But you can't keep abusing yourself and people. You've got to admit, I think you should just tell people, I'm intimidated by you. And listen, a saying that I have is, when you notice yourself being intimidated by somebody, it's really a distraction. You could be being blessed tremendously by 3 or 4 conversations with them to receive the wisdom, the strength, or the information that has them where they are, and have them doing whatever they're doing. Don't be intimidated. Be a student. And don't be jealous. Be a recipient. Learn from the thing that intimidates you. If you take on an adversarial position towards somebody who's anointed in a different way, or doing something different, or has something different, then you really just bought into the distractions of hell to keep you bitter, unforgiving, and real stagnant. You're not in a place for revelation. You're not in a place for direction. You're not in a place of instruction because of all of the stuff going on in you. So as an overseer, this is something I'm serious about. I'm serious about guarding my own heart with it. You got to be secure in who you are, and so that you don't demonize what other people are doing or what other people have because of what you don't believe about yourself. Get acquainted with what God is doing in your world. Develop it, mature it, perfect it, and focus. That's it. So yeah, I'm working on my messages to conclude this. Let Us Alone on Sunday, because I'm still closing out at 8:30 and 11:30 talking about demons. But you need to study this. Ask yourself, and I'm an intimidated person. Who intimidates me? Why do they intimidate me? What's the real reason I don't like you? What's the real reason I want to have sidebar, indirect, passive communications with you via Twitter or Snapchat or Instagram or whatever else is out there, and I have to shade you on my wall because I don't have the courage to do it on yours. Think about that stuff. What is that in you? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And the real truth is, you're intimidated. You see anything that's different from you as a threat. So you need to be healed, and you need to be delivered, and you need to be set free. And I think pastors need it. Business leaders need it. I mean, if I could not work under a supervisor. I could not work under a boss that was easily intimidated. I couldn't do it. I just could not do it. I couldn't work under an employer that was intimidated. I couldn't work around a mentor that was intimidated. No, they eventually become toxic people, and they become murderers. If you are an intimidated person, something in you is dying, and it's probably your potential. If you are under an intimidated person, something in you is dying and bleeding out, whether you know it or not, because you're doing your job and theirs. You're working on your own soul salvation, and you're refusing to move on and become healthy so that somebody else won't lose their sanity. It's dysfunctional. So, just my thoughts, working on some teachings and some new products and stuff, and some new books and all of this stuff. Got lots of deals coming my way and lots of negotiations coming my way. So keep me in prayers. But this is going to be one of them. Leaders have got to take the journey in. Sometimes we take the journey to property. We take the journey to land. We take the journey to church growth. We take the journey to networks, and we take the journey to degrees, and we take the journey to ordinations, and we take the journey everywhere but in. And when a leader does not take the journey in, everybody that is external is going to potentially be a target. You're broken. You just anointed. And the two can coexist. So these are my thoughts for tonight. I've got an early morning. I'll be in my office and working and stuff. I'm working on a bunch of new projects. So God bless you. I joined NY Chicago. So glad to have you. So glad to have you. Hey, I love you. I hope you receive this with grace. And, you know, I mean well in it. I want you to really review this and evaluate yourself. Don't go taking this, beating somebody else on the head with it. Evaluate this yourself. Don't be what's happening to you. Make the hard choices, have the hard conversations, and grow. Get restored from this stuff. Your purpose is demanding it, all right? So I love you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I bid you peace. Get some rest. All right, bye.